Welcome to our weekly Forex forecast, and this is for trading for the week of December 16th to the 20th, 2019. Just a quick disclaimer here before we get started. This is for educational purposes only. Trading is a risky business, so please be careful with your money. As usual, we'll start off by taking a look at our calendar here. So in terms of our calendar, we do have tons of PMI numbers coming out here this week. We also have Chinese data. So lately, the Chinese data has been coming up positive, and that's why we have seen Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar go up with that as well. And on Monday here, so if this data comes out positive, we are likely to see similar result for Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar. Coming up on Monday here, PMI numbers. So we have Eurozone PMI numbers here. And if the numbers come in above expectations here, that will be good for euro here, as well as a British pound here for the PMI numbers for the pound here. And then we have US PMI numbers as well. US data has not been coming out that positive. So if we see a drop in the PMI numbers, if they come in lower than expected, then we're likely to see US dollar take a hit. And then we also have bank stress test results here for the pound. And again, if here the stress tests show that the financial system is not as stable, then that will be negative for British pound here. So Monday here is full of important data. We also have business confidence numbers for New Zealand here. And if they come in, again, below, if it comes in below the previous number, so this one here was a negative, so if it drops further, that will have a negative impact on New Zealand dollar. So lately, Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar have done well because of, especially the New Zealand dollar, so partly because of Chinese data coming on positive, and also for New Zealand, we heard from Reserve Bank of New Zealand that they're not looking at cutting rates further, and that gave New Zealand dollar a boost, and it's been very strong recently. So if the business confidence drops here, that will actually be negative for New Zealand dollar, and we could see a drop and vice versa. But if these numbers come in higher than the previous ones, then we're likely to see New Zealand dollar go up further, because then we have multiple positive things stacked up there. Monetary policy meeting minutes here. At this point, Reserve Bank of Australia is not looking at cutting rates or changing anything. So if they stick to the same commentary, then we're not likely to see much of an impact from this. However, if they talk about cutting rates or anything like that, that will be negative for Australian dollar. But otherwise, at this point, I'm just expecting them to just maintain the status quo. So not expecting a ton of change, but again, commentary, what comments they have, that will be important. Tuesday here, Tuesday seems light in terms of red news here, but we do have manufacturing sales numbers and building permit numbers here. So these, manufacturing sales for Canada, but building permits and housing starts for the US, and these numbers are likely to have an impact on the US dollar, because we saw that when the economy kind of tanked back into 2008, 2009, housing did as well. So these housing numbers have become more important since then than they were before. So if these numbers come in above expectations here, that will be positive for the US. We do have FOMC members speaking here on Wednesday. We have ECB. Our new ECB president speaking, and then we have CPI data here for pound. So pound, for UK, the inflation numbers have been good, but if we see a drop in them, that will be negative for the British pound here. So keep an eye on them, but if they stay as they are, then I'm not expecting much of a change. Same thing here for Eurozone as well. If the numbers stay in line with expectations like previous ones, then not expecting a big change. But should they drop, then that will be negative. But if they go up, that will actually be positive for Euro. So just keep that in Keep that in mind there. And same thing here for Canada. We have CPI, which is the inflation numbers coming up. So inflation numbers, again, one of the key numbers that the central banks will track. That's why these numbers are very important. GDP numbers here for New Zealand, again, they will have an impact. Also the trade balance numbers, with all this focus on trade here, these numbers will be very important because New Zealand dollar is driven by exports. So if the number drops here below expectations, then that will have a negative impact on New Zealand dollar. Australian dollar, we have monetary policy numbers here. Employment numbers here for Australian dollar. Again, so it looks like we're expecting them to come up higher than the previous numbers. So if there's a miss here, if these numbers drop, that would be a negative for Australian dollar. Bank of Japan here, Bank of Japan monetary policy statement. So Bank of Japan actually recently, or for the last little bit, they have been talking about an expansionary monetary policy. They've been talking about easing it further. They already have negative rates. So if they talk, if their comments are more towards expanding the monetary policy or easing it further, that will be negative for Japanese yen. And this has been one of the reasons that Japanese yen hasn't done well, because Bank of Japan has been, they've been talking about this monetary policy or easing it further. So in this monetary policy statement and press conference, if that's what they're saying, that they are going to give more stimulus, put more stimulus into the economy, that would be negative. And if they're concerned about overall economic conditions, that would be negative as well. And we can see Japanese yen drop, which means the yen crosses are likely to go up in that case. And then we also have Bank of England here. We have monetary policy statement. And at this point, again, not looking for them to make any changes, especially going into December here, or going into into Christmas, sorry. But again, it's all in the commentary. If the comments suggest that next year they will be easing, that will be negative for a British pound. If they maintain the status quo, then not expecting much of a change. And then Thursday, we have a bunch of data from the US here. Again, these numbers will make a difference. So Philly Fed Manufacturing Index number is important. So it's likely to drop, but if it comes below this 8.1 number, that will be negative for the US. So just keep an eye on that. Friday, we have current account numbers for British pound here. With trade being so important at this point, if the number comes in below expectations here, again, that would be negative for British pound, and vice versa. Same thing here. We have current account for euro as well. And then core retail sales numbers here for Canada. So with Canada here, it's been interesting. We've been hearing comments back and forth. Sometimes we hear comments about Bank of Canada wanting to ease further. Other times they have sort of retracted those comments and they're saying Bank of Canada is not likely to ease further. But at some point in 2020 here, we are likely to see Bank of Canada ease unless things change dramatically. But for now, though, it will be all about the numbers. If the data keeps coming out below expectations for Canada, then it just puts them on track, or puts Bank of Canada on track for easing. So this is how the market will be viewing these numbers. So keep an eye on it. So the more we see the numbers drop, or more negative numbers we see, the higher the chances the Bank of Canada will ease or cut rates. That's why if we see below these numbers that come in lower, then you will see a response from Canadian dollar here, and Canadian dollar will drop if the numbers are below the previous ones here. And then we have US data here, and consumer sentiment as well as inflation expectations number. Same thing applies if they come in below expectations. That would be negative for the US. Now, keep in mind, we are into holiday trading, which means a lot of traders are away. People tend to take time off during this time of the year, and the big institutions and stuff are rebalancing their books, which means there is a lower liquidity. That means there's less money in the system because a lot of people are away and not taking any major trades at this point. So when we have low liquidity conditions, we tend to see more aggravated moves. So where before we would only see, let's say, a 10 pip move, now we could see a 40 pip move. So just keep that in mind. We do not want to get caught in these things. So just make sure that you are aware of the market conditions at this point. All right, so let's go on to our charts here. We'll start off with our euro dollar as usual. So quite a move here with the elections. We saw price go all the way into the top here, and we have seen a price drop from there. So this candle here is, even though there's bullishness in it, I'm not overly bullish on this. This is actually neutral for me. So I'm looking for price to actually drop. So we may see a bit of a pullback, then looking for price to come back towards the bottom of the range. As we can see, price has been trading in a range here. It's still stuck in that range, but it rejected the high of the range. So I'm looking for price to drop at this point. So the bias is neutral, looking for a bit of a pullback and then a drop towards the bottom of the range. Target is 1.0980. So bias here is neutral for euro dollar. Pound here, pound was very interesting. We saw the elections, UK elections go through this previous week here, and as a result, with the exit polls, when the exit polls came out and they were predicting a conservative majority, we saw this big gap to the upside. Price just jumped on that news, and after the elections, we saw price drop. So now I'm actually looking for a bit of a further drop here. We did see a huge move up in British pound here. And now I would look for, so there is still bullishness in it, but I'm looking for price to kind of pull back a bit more. So this is where price is currently. It's into this support resistance turning into support here. So it's into the support resistance level. So I'm looking for it to pull back a bit further here, and then looking for it to come back down. So it's all about buy the rumor, sell the news. So we saw a big move up in terms of British pound on the rumor that conservatives will win. Now all of that is behind us, we could see some of those trades unwind, and as a result, we could see price drop here. So what kind of targets can we look for? First of all, I'm looking for a pullback. So let's do that. So in terms of the pullback, we could get a pullback into 1.3430-ish level here, and then I would look for a drop. Now the concern here would be if the price stays above or holds above 1.3350, it can go up further, right? So this is where it is currently, and if it holds above this level, then chances are it will go further. However, what I'm looking for is I am looking for that bit of a move higher, but then I am looking for a drop, and I'm looking for price to go through this level and go lower. So my target here, the first target is 1.3180. The move that I'm expecting is something like this. Price goes higher, bounces up, and then comes back down into this target 1.3180. So that's the first target, and if it does continue, then I'm looking for 1.3020. So looking for a bit of this move to get reversed essentially, and then of course we could go like that, but for now this is what I'm expecting it. So let's see if that plays out. So first target 1.3180, Second target, 1.3020. So bias is more to the downside here for British pound. Aussie dollar here, Aussie had gone up here as well, and on a weekly we can see it went right into the resistance and then it rejected the resistance here. So now I'm looking for price to basically come back down here. So this is where we are. The candle close here is neutral. So this candle has pins on both sides, small candle body, giving us a neutral candle. At this point, all I'm looking for is a move within this range. As you can see, for the last several weeks here, number of weeks, price has just been trading in this range. So this has been range bound as well. So I'm looking for price to hold that range and come back. It may go test the high of the range, so be aware of that because it is neutral. It can move in either direction, but I'm looking for the top of the range to hold, and as long as price stays below 0.6940, I'm looking for a drop towards 0.6760. So neutral bias and looking for a move within the range. New Zealand dollar here, this one we finally saw a down day. The overall weekly candle close here though is still neutral. As we can see, price, this is exactly the same as what we saw in Australian dollar here. So price has rejected both sides. For this, again, bias is neutral. I'm looking for a potential retest. It could push back up, and then looking for price to come back towards the bottom of this candle, towards 0.6520. So that will be the first target. Now, should it drop below that, then I will look for a move lower here, 0.6430. So bias here is neutral for New Zealand dollar, but not looking for exaggerated moves to the upside at this point. Dollar CAD here, this one has dropped. As we can see, price rejected the top of the range, and now it's making its way towards the bottom of the range here. So this is where price has been trading for some time now. So looking for price to drop further here. First target here would be 1.3120, and then below that, looking for a move towards the bottom of the range, 1.3050 or 1.3020. So I'm actually going to put it in the lower one here, just so we only have to draw one. So bias here is bearish, and same thing here as well. I will look for a bit of a pullback here and then potential drop. Now there's a lot of data coming out this week, both for US and Canadian dollar. So that's what we should keep in mind here. Euro pound, this one dropped a lot because of British pound or UK elections here. So we do have a bearish candle close here, but I'm actually looking for price to bounce back a bit. So something like this. So we still, overall, it's still bearish, but I think we could get a move like this. So looking for a bit of a move to the upside here, and 0.8380 and even potentially into 0.8420. So looking for a move higher here, but overall it's still in the downtrend. So overall bias still remains to the downside, but for this week, looking for that move higher. Euro Swiss franc, this one has been all over the place here. We saw a big move up, and then it rejected the top of the range, and now we are into the bottom of the range here, or into the first part of the range. So looking for price to drop further. This one is still range bound, so if we were to take all of this away, we can see this is sort of the range that price has been trading in. Now it's into the middle of the range, so I'm looking for a drop towards the bottom of the range. 1.0830 is the target here for Euro Swiss franc. Pound Swiss franc, a huge move up on the parliamentary elections and then a pullback there. So this is where we ended up with this one here. So now I'm looking for a move back towards 1.2880. So it's rejected that level. So just looking for it to come back into this level, which was the top of the range before it took off. So bias here is to the downside, and target is 1.2880. So bearish bias for pound Swiss franc. Anyway, okay, dollar Swiss franc here. This one's sitting here. It's been sitting here for the last few days. Overall bias still is bearish. It is into the bottom of the range though. So this one as well, as we can see, price has been trading in the range here. This is our range that it's been maintaining. It is into this support level where it has been rejected several times. So bias here is bearish. I would suggest being careful here because we do need to see a break of the support here for this one to continue further. So for this one, bearish bias. However, watch out for pullback. We could get a pullback like this into 0.9880 or 0.9900 all the way up here before it moves lower. So this is the type of move I'm expecting. Bias is to the downside, and first target would be just the bottom of the range, bottom of this candle here, 0.9800, and then looking for 0.9700. So bias is bearish for dollar Swiss franc. Pound yen here. Pound, again, on the UK elections, pound yen jumped. And now we have been seeing this retracement back here. And as such, I am looking for a bit more of a drop here. So we are back into this level here. And at this point, I am looking for a drop towards back into this top of the range here. Okay, so what I'm looking for here would be a bit of a pullback higher into potentially into 146.50 and then a drop. So this one could go further, a little further here as well into 147. So either 146.50 or 147. So just watch out for how much it wants to pull back, but looking for a pullback and then a drop here. So overall, I'm actually bearish on this, even though the candle looks quite bullish here. I am looking for a drop. So I'm just bearish for a little bit here, looking for a drop towards 143.80. So bias is bearish here for pound yen. Euro yen here, this one as well, we saw the move up because of the conservative win here. And now we are back into this range. So I'm looking for price to actually, we could see a pullback either into so 122.20 or 122.50. And then looking for it to drop back down. So something like this, that's what I'm looking for, back into 119.80. So Euro yen as well, looking for a drop, so bearish bias here for Euro yen. Dollar yen here, this one also went up, and we saw that we see that price is into the top of the range. But last time it was into the top of the range, it did come back down. So I'm expecting the same. However, like I said, we are into holiday trading, which means things can get a little tricky because the moves can just continue on. So if it does break the high, it can go all the way into the next level at 110.80. So during the holidays, this is always a concern that if price starts moving in one direction, it can just continue on. So keep that in mind, but if it doesn't drop here, I'm looking for it to come back. If it doesn't go through here, I am looking for it to come back down because this has been range bound. So looking for it to maintain the range at this point. So target here is 108 in terms of dollar yen. Aussie yen here. So we are seeing pullbacks here. So here as well, price went into the resistance, and then we have seen a drop from here. So looking for price to drop further towards 73.80. So bias is bearish here for Aussie yen. Sorry about that. Okay. Okay, so bias is bearish here for Aussie yen. 73.80 is the target. New Zealand yen here, this one as well, we saw that price went all the way into our support resistance here. So this one as well, we do have a bullish candle here, but I think there has been a lot of optimism in the market here. So we could get some reversals here, or at least retracements. So that's what I'm looking for. So looking for price to come back down. Now, do expect a retest here into 72.50, and if it holds below this level, then I'm looking for a drop. Now, should it go through, then it can continue on into 74.10. So just like I said, holiday trading can be, we can see exaggerated moves in holiday trading. So if it does go higher, it can continue on. But for now, I am looking for a drop back into 70.80. So bias is bearish here for New Zealand yen as well. CAD yen has been all over the place here. And as we see here, it is moving towards the top of the range. So I will look for a push into the top of the range here. So a little bit, so I'm kind of neutral here. So looking for a push higher and then looking for price to come back into the range. So a lot of these pairs have been range bound for a while now. So these are all weekly candles, so we can see how long price has been stuck in this range, and I'm expecting the same, not looking for any kind of moves out of the range at this point. Okay, so this is CAD yen. All right. Okay, so let's go on to our commodities now. We'll start off with silver. Silver, from technical perspective, it's still stuck in this range at the moment. So this is our daily. Going into weekly, we can see it's still stuck in this range at this point. So what am I looking for at this point? Now, there's been a lot of other stuff going on. There were concerns with the US and China reaching a trade deal, so they finally pulled that off. And now that the phase one trade deal has been reached, I will look for some of that optimism to come back down. So if the equity markets drop, we could see silver go up. So in this case, if we take a look at this larger range, price has been range bound for several weeks now. So I'm looking for price to maybe go into the 17.25 level here, and then come back down from here, basically looking for it to be range bound. So that's why I'm neutral on this. There is room for it to go further. But however, if it gets stuck below 1710, it can just reverse from here. So we just have to be careful, like I said, with holiday trading. But this could happen, or we could see price go all the way into 17.25 and then come back into the range. So a slight bit of positivity here, but overall I'm neutral on silver. Gold here, as we can see, this has also been stuck in this range for some time. This is a daily chart. If we take a look at the weekly chart, we see that it's been stuck here, and we are still trading in this range. We are towards the top of the range, so we could see a further move towards so 1484 or even into 1493, and then we could see a drop. But overall, at this point, I am still neutral on this. The question is, what's my forecast on the long term? I don't know, actually. I don't really do a lot of long-term analysis. I am more short-term trader. Short-term, it could be a few weeks, but I don't really look at long-term, so I don't, unfortunately, have a bias for the long-term. But for now here, just for the week here, I'm just looking for it to go, to come back into the range. Okay, so let's continue on here. Oil is looking bullish here. We are into resistance, but if you take a look at the daily here, it's finally kind of made this move past this range that it was stuck in. So this one is positive, and but do keep in mind into resistance, which means it can turn. But bias is bullish, and next target is 61.80. So first target 60.50 and then 61.80. Copper here, copper was quite strong and then it has pulled back. So at this point, looking for a move back towards 2.68 for copper. Now, keep in mind the pullback. We could get a pullback like that and then a drop into 2.68. So looking for a bit of a move to the downside into 2.68 for copper. Bitcoin still stuck in this range. I have not, these charts are not for the weekend, so it does not include the weekend trading. So do take a look at that. But this one, as we can see, is also stuck in this range at this point. It's pushing into the bottom of the range. So if the support breaks at 70.50, we are looking for a move lower into 6,500. But for now, neutral, just looking, sitting a little heavy. All right, S&P 500, let's take a look at equities now. What's going on with the equities? With the equities, there has been a lot of optimism because of these positive comments we kept hearing about the trade deal being reached. And now that we have a trade deal, now what, right? So things didn't quite align as well as everybody was wanting them to. So right now, what has happened? At this point in the trade deal that was reached, the tariffs are going to roll back. Some of the tariffs, I should say, will roll back from the US side, the previous tariffs. The tariffs that were supposed to come into play today will not come into play. And the China also is doing the same. They're going to suspend because they were going to put new tariffs on December 15th as well. And now that they have reached the phase 1 trade deal, they're going to not do that either. So overall, we don't really have we have a trade deal, but we don't really have any tariffs coming into play. So what are we looking at, right? In this case, it's still holding higher. It's looking bullish here, but I would look for a retracement to start here. Now, some people are likely to take profits, and with all this optimism or expectations of the trade deal getting signed, we had market pushing higher. But now that it's done, so buy the rumor, sell the news, we could get a retracement here. So bias is still a little bullish here, so we could see it go into 3,200, but then I am looking for a drop. So I'm not looking for this one to basically shoot up now. Usually markets shoot up in expectation of something to happen, and now that the trade deal is done, we tend to see, I would look for reversals basically, or retracements here. So on a 1 hour chart, we can see it's just been a mess here. And looking at the 1 hour chart, basically I would look for price to go and retest the high at 31.80. If it doesn't break it, then I'm looking for price to drop back down towards 31.50 and potentially even here into 31.40. And then if it wants to continue on going into 31.20. However, if it breaks the high, because there could still be another push left, and a lot of times that can happen, price goes through here and then moves along here further. In that case, I would look for 3,200. But then I am looking for basically things to kind of retrace back. Now, President Trump did want to end the year with positive markets, or for equity markets to be in the positive, because that's one of the criteria that he evaluates himself on. And coming into the election year now, that will be a very important thing for him to get the support. And because of that, we have seen when President Trump wants something, he does tend to get it, whether I will kind of hold my comments on how, but the point is that we could see a bit of a move further and market could hold into the end of the year. So just be aware of that. trading is not just about the technicals, but also what else is driving the markets. So at this point, it is bullish, and I would look for a bit of a move higher into 3,200, but at some point, I'm looking for that sell the news story. So looking for a drop from there, and the target would be 3,150 and then 3,120. Nasdaq, same thing here. We have seen price go back and forth here, and this has been quite interesting on Friday. It was just basically driven by the comments that were coming out from the US, from China, and all of that. So now this is where we sit. So if you take a look at it from the weekly perspective, we are looking quite bullish here, and same thing would apply here. We could get a bit more of a move higher, but then I would start to look for a drop here. So I'm not saying that going into Christmas we'll get a big drop, but there are a lot of people who may close their positions to book the profits because we have seen this big move to the upside, and when that happens, it's like this, get a big move, we could get a bit of a drop. So that's something to keep in mind here. 85.50 is where I would look for it to go, but then it would I would see it drop from there. Brad, my background here for the charts is gray. I'll show you what exact color is at the end here. Okay, Dow Jones here, same story here. We see that price has been back and forth here. At one point, it went all the way into the high. So again, I am looking for actually things to come back down. So looking for a push into 28,280, and if it holds below that, I'm looking for a drop back towards 28,000 and potentially into 27,880-ish level. So overall, still looking bullish, but like I said, especially this one here, this one is not looking as bullish as the other ones. So we could see a turn. So this one, my bias is neutral actually, looking for price to come back towards 27,700 is the level that I would keep in mind for this one here. So neutral bias for Dow Jones. Okay, DAX here. DAX went up all the way, tried to break the resistance here, and now it's back in. So as long as it holds below 13,300, I am looking for it to drop towards 1,300. So bias here is also bearish. Now keep in mind something like this can happen and then a drop. So overall, though, bias is bearish for DAX, and 13,000 is the target. FTSE here, FTSE has been all over the place. Move higher all the way into the resistance here. I am actually looking for this one to drop because this resistance is quite strong. So I am looking for price to kind of do one of these. So looking for it to drop, bias is bearish. First target here would be 7,300, and if it drops below that, 7,250. So bias is bearish for FTSE. This one, Nikkei here, jumped up all the way, and Nikkei will be interesting because if Bank of Japan wants to ease further, put more stimulus into the economy, then we are likely to see this one go further. So this one is looking bullish at the moment, and this one could go further because of Bank of Japan. So I would say the first target here is 24,300, and then the second target would be 24,450. But again, I'm not looking for it to break the highs there into the holidays. So we could see price come back down from one of these levels. But the only reason I'm bullish on this one is because of Bank of Japan. If they actually introduce more stimulus, that's always good for equity markets. So bullish bias here. All right, so question here, there will be a copy. So this analysis will be on YouTube or Facebook if you are connected with me on those things. So Trading with Venus Facebook group or Trading with Venus YouTube channel, this will be available there as well. And if you are looking to download the spreadsheet that comes with it, you can go to tradingwithvenus.com/forecast, and all the targets that we talked about today, you will receive those targets in the spreadsheet from me. And if you have signed up once, you do not need to sign up again. You will get it by the end of the day today automatically. All right, the question about the chart colors. Let's see, what kind of chart color do I have? I think it's steel gray. It's gray, just gray, not steel gray. So Brad, hope that helps. So I'm just using gray. I like to use gray because I find it's easier on the eyes. I find white or black are too hard when you're actually trading, so I don't do that. Okay, you're welcome. All right, you guys have a wonderful week here. I will be doing the daily market analysis all of this week, but this may be our last weekly analysis for actually, yeah, this may be our this is going to be our last weekly analysis for the year. So if I don't see you on the daily this week, have a wonderful Christmas holiday season, and I will see you again next year. Bye for now.